Peace and love. This is Brother Ali checking out the Bootleg Kev podcast. One of my favorites. Stay right here.
All right, y'all, before we get into the episode, we got to do this. We just dropped these t-shirts to celebrate 500 episodes of the Bootleg Kev podcast. Yes, this is out. Little Daytona 500 vintage flip. All 500 episodes are on the back. Yes, you could do the gray or you could just go black. The black is fire too. So look, if you go right now, man, bootlegkev.com, and you cop yourself a 500 episode t-shirt, I'm going to throw in a pair of socks. We got the Bootleg Kev Odd Socks. You already know. The Bootleg Kev podcast sponsored by Odd Socks. So it's only right we throw in a pair of Odd Socks for every t-shirt sold. So, bootlegkev.com. Thank you, everybody, for supporting 500 episodes. Let's get into the next one right now. Come on.
Bootleg Kev podcast. Special guest in here. Brother Ali, the legend. Good to see you, man.
I'm happy to be with you, man. Thank you for doing
Yes, sir. For people who don't know, I mean, I interviewed you one time backstage after your tour. You and Evidence were on tour?
Yep.
In Boise, Idaho in 2009 or 10.
Yep.
What year would have that been?
That was 2009, and Evidence was just coming over to Rhymesayers, and that was an amazing run. Every show sold out. 50 shows in 60 days, all of them sold out.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
Yeah, crazy times, man. Man, it's wild, too, because I feel like... What? Oh, you want to push it back down? Oh, my bad. You want it down? Yeah, push it
Down. Got it. Okay.
How do you feel, man? Because obviously, you know, you've had an amazing career as an independent artist, somebody who, you know, I guess would be considered quote unquote underground. When I was growing up, we had underground hip hop.
Yeah.
The game has changed a lot. And for you kind of being like an OG at this point, somebody who's kind of had a bunch of different eras of your own career, how do you feel just like with today's climate in terms of like being an independent artist and making the kind of music that is not low-hanging fruit, if you will?
Yeah. It's really challenging, you know, but it's always been challenging. Like, that's part of the fun of it, and that's part of the freedom of it. It's like, man, I'm going to make music about my secrets. And you're not supposed to really do that. You know, I'm going to make secret music about things that aren't what everybody wants to necessarily hear right now. But there's something inside me that makes it, this is very true, what I'm going to say. And to make the music that we want to make. And, you know, if you're able to, then the struggle is to find the people that want to hear that secret and want to celebrate whatever that is. So, and I mean, and that's true for everybody across the board. It's no different than, like, you know, kids in New York that are caught up in like neighborhood beef.
Right.
And it's like, no, this is how we really live. And like, yeah, we're rough around the edges and we're violent. That's how you know what I mean? And some of us are on drugs and whatever. But there's a certain like true lived human experience that they're putting in their music. And when it first happens, people are like, what is this? Their community right away is going to be like, yes, somebody's speaking for me.
Right.
It's not easy living like this. You know what I mean? Everybody has something like that. And then once that actually starts to catch on, the artists, once they get that space, they start to say more. And and we get a window into their world and we start getting context, and then it makes sense. But you have to fight. And that's part of the beautiful struggle of it all. So, you know, there was a period when we first came out where it was like, when you said there was the underground thing. So when Pac and Big died, it was like, okay, these are the first time the most respectable MCs, the most respected MCs in the culture were also crossover mainstream. It wasn't never like that before.
Right.
Like, oh, we all love Tone Loc and Young MC. They were never the top tier MC.
Right. It was Cool G Rap or, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, the other people had to fight. So then there was a weird thing that happened where all the great MCs were like, oh, we can be mainstream.
Right.
And so for people where this was always a counterculture thing, it's just like, wait, what part is this? What part are we just, so we're just like jumping in bed with the oppressors now? Because you can get rich doing it?
Right.
That's strange to a lot of us. And so there was like a whole movement of Mos Def and the Roots and
the whole Raucous era, the Roots era, yeah. I mean, it was definitely early Common shit.
Absolutely. And, you know, Common's music is still that way.
Dilated, you know?
Yeah, definitely Dilated Peoples was a huge part of that. And MF Doom and Little Brother and like there's this whole thing. And we in a lot of ways were saying like, okay, the music industry is never been for us, so we're gonna go do our own thing. So, you know, what we did at Rhymesayers and in Minneapolis and the Midwest was to start going to all kind of places where they never had hip hop before. And like, you know, going in and performing and, you know, word of mouth and all that stuff. And then just every era we've had to figure out what's the space that we can authentically engage. So, you know, it was Napster and all that, and then it was MySpace and all that, and then it was the blogs and all that, and then and now it's social media. And so it's always a tremendous challenge, but that's part of the freedom of it all.
For sure. Yeah, I think too, like, we're kind of in this weird space, which is positive, where I think somehow this Kendrick Lamar beef has like brought like attention to lyricism again in a way that it might have been missing for however you feel about the beef. But I feel like people were paying attention to like bars again, which I feel like had been kind of missing for a while. And then you got to go like Doechii, who wins Best Rap Album. Her album was incredible. I feel like there might be a page being turned where people want more substance in their music and maybe more, you know, I feel like there might be an appetite for that. Because we're going on damn near 10 years of it being very like, you know, like you said, we had Biggie, we had even Nas, you know, like, you know, obviously Kendrick, Cole, all those guys are very high frequency artists. But I feel like, you know, in terms of what the kids are looking for, like my son is 11 and he's like into like rap music that I wouldn't think an 11-year-old would be into.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, you know, because that's what I was into when I was 11, you know. So I think there's a culture shift happening. I hope so, especially with just the younger, because obviously guys like me and, you know, my age, we're gonna listen to, but it's like, what are the 13, 14-year-olds listening to, you know?
Yeah.
And what are they kind of inputting? Is it like op killing music, or is it, you know, Kendrick, you know, like? And it's dope to see like Kendrick getting like, I guess that, because, you know, now you got people diving into To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so we just put an album out. It was number 9 on the hip hop iTunes chart. And everything else in the top 10 was Glorilla. It was like 1 through 8 was Kendrick, was like different Kendrick albums. And it's like, oh, okay, those are people that saw him on the Super Bowl. And I think it was like a lot of like middle white America that was like, this Kendrick Lamar gentleman seems to have something to say. He might be as good as Eminem. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then Glorilla. And then like me in the middle of it, me just chilling at number 9. It's weird, man. So the Muslims call this realm the dunya. It was like we were somewhere before we were here, and that was all true and beautiful. That's not where we are now. Right. And then after this, we have the life of the grave. We've got the judgment. We got the afterlife. But this place is a mixture of good and bad. It's a mixture of true and false. It's a mixture of things change and they stay the same. And everything is that way. You know what I mean? So yeah, I love Kendrick. Obviously, like, you know what I mean? I met Kendrick when he was coming up, and he was like, yo, like we're you know, and I love Kendrick. It's also true that, you know, historically, white America has always accepted certain things. So like all the culture comes from black people. 100%. And all the cultural genius, all the cultural export, everything. But it's like there are some things that are not accepted. There are some things that are accepted. There are some things that are celebrated, and then there are some things that are mega celebrated. A critique, what's not accepted is a critique of the power structure. So, you know, what is accepted is just cultural genius that seems to not be harming anyone.
Yeah, that's not like stirring the pot up too much, you know?
What's always celebrated is black people fighting each other. Right. Especially great black people destroying each other. So that's not Kendrick's fault. You know what I mean? And that's not, and people who aren't black is like, there are certain conversations, it's like, I don't have an opinion about that. Right. You know what I mean? It's not my place to have it. But what I do know is what the white mainstream power structure does, which is they love to celebrate powerful black men destroying each other. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, Kendrick's last album, there's so much to break down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a real, like, think piece on like self-reflection, mental health, like so much, and it went over everybody's head, and it wasn't celebrated in the same way.
Now it's celebrated on a certain level. I mean, he did get a Pulitzer Prize,
right? No, but I mean in terms of like
culture, yes, like hours and hours of people breaking down on YouTube every possible triple entendre of a Kendrick, and then for black women, it's everybody's right decision to do whatever they want with their image and their body and everything, but black women don't really get celebrated unless they're
like Rhapsody's not going to be celebrated like Sexy Red.
Too much clothes.
Right.
too black, too strong.
Right.
Too much clothes.
Right.
Little too dignified. You got to be, if you're a black woman, for the mainstream to accept you, we have to have sexual access to you because we used to own you. You know what I'm saying? So even Beyonce been married to Jay-Z for 20 years. You still got to be in your underwear, otherwise you're not going to make it.
Right. That's why it was good to see Rhapsody win a Grammy this year.
Man, look, I felt like I won a Grammy. First, Killer Mike won it.
Oh, when Killer Mike won it, I was like,
yeah, man, yo, Killer Mike and LP is like for somebody like me. So that's our era. Those are the guys that came up when we came up, and they just did what they've always done. There was zero corniness. There was zero. It's like, man, it's also just good to know, like for like aging hip hop heads, like it's good to know I'm not a hater.
100%.
Like I'm happy when somebody succeeds being true.
Yeah, when Killer Mike won, it was to me, because I mean he had the album of the year. I'm like, yes, he I'm just glad they got it right, because usually they don't.
He wanted it. He said it when he came in. It was like Babe Ruth or whoever pointing into the thing, or Muhammad Ali saying what round I'm gonna knock him out in. He came out and he said, "I want the album of the year. My mama dead," and it's just like, yeah, man, get that album of the year, man. Yeah, beautiful. Also, Rhapsody, man, like
she's amazing, man.
Yeah.
She's incredible. Yeah. It's been fun. You were bringing up the Super Bowl thing and just some of the. It has been funny to watch, like the far right's like inner conflict on how they feel about Kendrick's halftime show, because I've seen them be like, well, it was patriotic, you know, it wasn't woke. And then the other part were like, yo, there wasn't any white people. It was just so funny. Yeah. If you look at the Twitter like back and forth,
right,
it's so funny. Like they don't know what to think of the halftime show. And to me, that's what's so brilliant about like however that halftime show played out was like, no one's too sure on like, some people think they got it figured out, right?
Yeah. I was just happy to see Kendrick be a free black man that expressed what he wanted to express.
Like Samuel L. Jackson was like all of it.
You can have
he told
whatever.
A story in the halftime show. It was like,
yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah. And then also that it was real art.
Yes, it was
like,
art.
That was art. Like, you know what I mean? There's no denying the fact that, you know, I've got my own opinion. We all have opinions, but I'm saying like, man, that was him saying what he wanted to say, making the statement he wanted to make. He made it in a grand way that was fitting for that stage, but it was
art.
Art, man. Like, yeah. So those are all amazing things. And that's why I say like the dunya is always good and bad. The more things change, the more they stay the same, you know? So
talk to me. You left Rhymesayers a few years ago, was it?
I went independent 4 years ago.
Yeah. What? Obviously, you know, Brother Ali and Rhymesayers, you guys are very synonymous.
Yeah. I was a company man. They talking about drinking the Kool-Aid. I was the Kool-Aid. I was busting through the wall like with the Kool-Aid out. Oh yeah, because I love those people. I still love them.
Yeah, Rhymesayers is obviously, you know, one of the craziest success stories, and when it comes to just an independent hip hop label, like fuck, man, Atmosphere, yourself. I mean, the festivals were crazy. What for you was the main, you know, why'd you break away and decide to do your own thing?
Man, it's just, you know, you grow and you start to have your own ways that the more you learn, the more you have certain things that you want to do and ways that you want to do things, and more so just like how you want to feel. And, you know, I realized that the things that I wanted to do where like I've grown as a person and like what I offer the world. So like not only do I do these like sold out tours across the country, I also delivered the Nobel Peace Prize forum, like keynote address at the Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow.
I've like lectured at Harvard and Princeton,
right.
And you know what I mean? I also am I have a leader in the Muslim community. Mm-hmm. I also want to write and do podcasts and all these kind of things. And then also I want things to feel a certain way. And I just realized like the things that I want to do for them to build those, it wouldn't even be responsible for them to build those into that label because it would just be me. Like the things that I was requiring was that. And then also there was also some, you know, when you're building something as you go, you have certain ideas about what this is and things like that. And so, you know, I discovered over time that like, oh, I don't own this label. And I don't have really a vote in it. It's not mine. I always kind of felt like it was mine.
Even though you kind of felt that way because you were there from,
Because we all love each other
Yeah.
and we're all family. But when it really comes to the decisions that are made, when it really comes to the moves that are made, when it really comes to, even things like, hey, I don't think this particular situation is working. This particular situation is not working for me. There were years where it did not work for me and I was in a bad space. And what I would have needed to do would be to ask them to basically develop new departments just for me. And it's like, that's at a certain point, like I went from saying like, hey, we're all family, let's work this out, to like, I'm just upset and there's nothing I can do about it.
So like, why build up that resentment that's natural?
Yeah, so it's like, you know what? Let me take the ultimate lesson from all of you that have invested so much in me and gained a lot from me too.
For sure.
Everything I did was very successful. Nothing ever lost money. Everything I did was successful there. So it's like, this was a great run together. The main thing that I can learn from you is that what you did is when you wanted things to be a certain way, you built something that was yours. So it hurt to do that, because there's no scandal, there's no beef. Still love everybody. But to step away. Now, what was beautiful is that right away when I did that, I started my podcast. Slug came out to one of the shows so we could do a podcast together on stage immediately. Like my first time back out after stepping away. And then me and Ant just made this album together and he came on tour with me in between Atmosphere tours. Like instead of going home for 5 weeks.
He came on tour with you.
He came on tour with me.
Album, yeah.
So it's like, man, the music is true. The love is true. The business is the corniest part of it. And so the business wasn't working, so now I'm doing something that does work. Like now I'm healthy, I'm well, you know what I'm saying? So I was terrified to do that. And I mourned it. Like I mourned it like a death because that's where I became me. They're part of me becoming me and I'm part of them becoming them.
100%.
And so to step away business-wise, the main concern is like, can we keep the friendships intact?
And obviously that's happened.
For the most part, yeah. There's a couple people that, there's a few situations that are like, we haven't really got back on the same page yet. But those things take time.
For sure.
Like,
It's with anything. There's healing. There's, you got to let stuff settle.
But those people are good people.
Right.
So, Yasin Bey and me are really dear friends.
And he opened your album.
Yeah. And he came to me and said, we're thinking about doing the Black Star vinyl on Rhymesayers. I know that you used to be there and you're not anymore. Is there anything you want to tell me? I said, those people are honest people. But don't assume anything. That's the only thing. If you want to know something, ask it.
You got to ask.
If you assume something, ask directly. But they will never cheat you. They will never lie to you. They managed Doom's affairs, which wasn't easy.
Are they still doing that?
Yes.
Yes.
Doom was happy with them. His wife, as far as I understand, is happy with them.
Yeah, I think they're like his licensing and everything they're managing.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
They're not. There's nothing. People want there to be a scandal. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, sorry, I can't do that.
Oh, sometimes you just grow. I mean, when you think of Rhymesayers, obviously think of Atmosphere, but then I think you're the flag bearer of the company for.
And in the more traditional spaces, I'm the more known one.
Right.
So,
Especially with the label. Like I think of Rhymesayers, I think of you, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, so Atmosphere built their own world completely separate which is what's so amazing. No, well, like separate from, like within hip hop. So like Tech Nine and Rhymesayers an Atmosphere, both were like, nobody accepts us. I'm going to go build my own.
Very on their own. That's a good, obviously different sonically, but very similar in terms of their approach to the industry and hip hop. Yes.
And they built their own worlds. I'm not opening for people. No. People can open for me. I don't open for people. I do my own show. It's an Atmosphere show. It's a Tech Nine show. And I learned a lot from that. But that's what they built. But when I came along, the Public Enemy and Rakim took me on tour. Ghostface took me on tour. GZA took me on tour. Brand Nubian took me on tour. Big Daddy Kane took me on tour. I was working with Joe Budden and so I was out of our early roster. I was the one that was known in hip hop spaces.
Yeah, you were working.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, like you said, you were in that. I just remember one of my favorite records ever was the record that you, Freeway, and Jake One did, The Truth.
Yeah.
Which was so crazy. I don't know if you ever saw, I had Nipsey Hussle freestyle over that beat in 09.
Yes. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Nip.
Yeah, rest in peace, Nip. I was just with some of his people yesterday.
For you, man, I want to talk to you about obviously being Muslim in the music industry, you know, I feel like we're in a really, really strange place society-wise where you can't really be too honest about what's happening in the world. And I've used my platform to be as honest as possible, you know, in terms of...
What do you mean? Because I'm gonna take your lead on what we're saying.
What I'm saying is like, you know,
because I say a lot, but I want to be respectful.
Well,
of
no,
your
I'm
platform,
talking about in terms of what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank, and you know, we have a situation where you can't necessarily, like I said, be too honest about certain. It's almost like you're seeing with your own eyes what's happening, but if you call it what it is, you know, you there's labels that get put on you, like anti-Semitic. You know,
my man.
There's
go ahead, man. Go ahead, brother.
Well, I feel like it's interesting to me that like we live in a space where two things can't be true at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's like, even if you're a Zionist, whatever, cool, but you can't not be honest about what's happening at the same. Like, it's almost like those two things are exclusive to each other. However you feel about Zionism or whatever the case is, but like, I have friends in my life who are Jewish, who are Zionists, but also are very honest about there being a genocide and an ethnic cleansing, and what's happening in the West Bank is super fucked. But in the music industry, you know, I haven't seen anyone necessarily on the super commercial side outside of Macklemore, Kehlani. You know, there's not really a lot of big artists kind of speaking out like I feel like they
That'd
should.
be none.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's, you know, somebody, I was just with Gabriel Teodoro, shout out to him. I think he was quoting somebody, but he said, so what part of what we're talking about with this Kendrick thing is he can call Drake a colonizer, and that's celebrated.
Right.
But where's the part where Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal? Where's the part where, because the hip hop we come from is,
it's like there was Public Enemy.
Impeach the resident. I'm president pulling out my ray gun. You know, there was very direct. Like they're the enemy. Like where we come from is they're banging on the system. They're banging on white supremacy. They're banging on colonialism. They're banging on, yeah, man. And what you say is completely true. And so, yeah, last year I made an album with a Jewish anti-Zionist producer named Unjust. He's done with hieroglyphics. Okay. And he's amazing. And he's also an animator, illustrator. We made a beautiful album called Love and Service. The whole thing is really beautiful. You know, when we got to the end of the project was right when the big day in October happened. Oh. And we said, man, we knew that we had this in common. We knew it was a Muslim and a Jewish guy. And I mean, he's a Jewish guy. He got the beard, went to Birthright, married a Jewish woman. Right. He's a Jewish man. He's anti-Zionist. He's also very, you know, and we knew that we had this in common, but it was like not, it was just kind of a detail. We didn't really think, we're making music.
Yeah, like it was like, yo, we're making music because we're making music. And this also is like a cool tidbit. Hey, so I'm Muslim, you're Jewish.
When that happened,
that makes it way a whole other.
It's like, oh, this just took a different turn. So we made a song called The Collapse. You know, and he animated it, and he animated some stuff. He went in, and I respect people that critique their own community, especially if you come from the people that are in power with the money and the guns. So people see the way that I talk about whiteness, and they're like, well, you're the whitest guy ever. Right. You know what I mean? And that's what Chappelle always says. Brother Ali is the whitest of all the whites. He's a white man, and he's albino. Goddamn.
Can't get much whiter than that.
But somehow the blackest motherfucker I know. Yeah, pale Mooney, he said. But
that's funny.
But it's like, man, I respect that. I respect Minister Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan, most of what he's talking about in critiques is telling black people how to regain greatness.
Yeah, I just had a conversation with, do you know who 19 Keys is?
Of course.
So me and 19 Keys had a 3-hour interview a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, he's like, yo, save yourself. Like, that's the thing. It's like, yo, like, you know, if there's anything that like this last political cycle, however you feel about who won and whatever, it's like, yo, the Nigerian president came out and said something that 19 Keys pointed out. And he was like, they were talking about cutting aid from the U.S. to there. And the Nigerian president was like, why are we worried about this? Like, we're Nigeria. Like, we got us. Like, let's not depend on the U.S. And I think metaphorically, that's, you know, what 19 Keys has been saying for a while. Like, yo, we gotta build our own infrastructure.
I mean, that's Elijah Muhammad's message. That's Marcus Garvey's message. That's, you know,
and those aren't the figures that get celebrated.
But those are folks that are those. So those great leaders are deeply critical of within the community, like we got it to get it together.
Right.
You know what I mean? But for a Jewish person or for a white person to say like, okay, we have an added thing because as a group, we have the power and the guns and the money and the force and the might. So you have to be particularly, but a voice from within celebrate, like talking about taking self to account.
Right.
Like we could do better than this. We have to be better than this, you know. You will not be appreciated for that. So we put this album out, and I'm telling you, it got buried. When you saw me, you know I've always done 150 plus shows a year. And for a calendar year, I had not one show.
Wow.
Not one paid gig for a year. My booking agent, who's a Jewish lady, couldn't get me a single paid show for a full year. Even during the pandemic, I performed in parking lots with people in their cars. And Dave Chappelle had us do this thing outdoors. Like, man, I've never had a year with no shows in 22 years of touring. We put this album out and we hired a very expensive, and so for people hearing this story, I don't name names. It was supposed to be distributed by a big distributor. After the big day in October happened, I mean, we had everything but a signed contract. We had budgets. I spent a lot of money promoting the record, manufacturing the record. They just slowly ghosted us and walked away, and then posted a bunch of Zionist stuff. The biggest promoters in my biggest markets that I've known for years, I know them. I know they love me. They bring their kids to talk to me. Wouldn't book me for anything. We hired a big press agent. I know the names of all the people at the big outlets, the biggest magazines, the biggest, all of that stuff. I know their names. They've written about me, everything that I've done for years. We didn't go from the biggest outlets like Rolling Stone to smaller ones. We went from Rolling Stone to nothing. Not a single blog, except for one. There was one place in Palestine, actually, that covered us. Chuck D played us. Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! Played us. That's it. But I'm saying, so we went from I'm a very reliable entity in the music world.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not big and famous. You're not gonna make millions, but you will always make thousands of dollars.
You're always gonna sell your tickets.
I'm never messy.
Right.
My fans aren't messy.
Right.
I'm somebody that promoters are just like, hey, it's Brother Ali Day.
Of course, yeah.
It's happy for everybody.
Yeah.
Nothing, no press, no nothing. And then also shadow banned on social media. From making a project with an anti-Zionist Jewish homie called Love and Service, which is about uniting the world, where one of the songs is a critique of a Jewish American and what Chappelle calls the whitest of all the whites, with a critique about our own power structure. So yeah, man, it's real. And, you know, shout out to the people that have said it. I mean, Macklemore is in a unique position where he already got his money, his millions, and his Grammy.
Oh yeah, he's chilling.
But what Macklemore wants is to be respected. And he's going about it the right way.
Yeah.
Macklemore also, I've known him, I knew him long before he was famous.
He also was a super underground cat for years, you know,
well, the one critique that I have of my brother, who I love, who's a very nice person, a very talented person. He's a husband and a dad. He's got a lot to say. Macklemore learned a lot from the Rhymesayers movement and from us. And when he made his ascent, he was very careful to cover up the people that he learned a lot of what he learned. So he was, and I know his manager was my booking agent.
Okay.
I was very close on the inside of what was happening there, and they were very careful to not shed light on the people that they learned a lot of what they did from. So if you listen to his music, he'll credit Wu-Tang and all this other stuff, but he sounds more like Sage Francis and me and Atmosphere, and you know what I mean? And also there's a lot of very, very direct connections. They brought him to Rhymesayers to try to sign him. They manufactured the deal that they had to distribute that album, which is called The Heist, which is interesting.
Well, yeah, because he had the it was essentially like a label services thing with Warner, which was
developed by Rhymesayers. That was the Rhymesayers deal that they took. It was directly from the blueprint. And so the only critique that I've ever had of him, and it's not a hateful one, but it is a true one, is that when he made that ascent, there was an opportunity to tell the truth about, he got credit for a lot of things that were developed by people who never got a chance to be famous.
Right.
And so, and that's a historical thing in the music business.
Yeah, I think with Mac, man, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm cool with Mac. I think first of all, that whole thing happened really fast. The heist was, I mean, one hip hop album of the year. You know, a lot of people think Kendrick should have won it, but I think I don't know, man. I know him to be a very good guy, you know, and I'm not sure, you know, I'm not too hip to or educated on like. I haven't watched every interview that he's done, so I don't know who he gives love to and who he doesn't give love to. But I do know, like, he was like you said, like he was very much like a blog era, like kind of like, you know, outside of the mainstream of hip hop for a long time, being up in the Northwest, and then he caught a wave, you know, like.
Well, yes, and like I said, in the dunya, two things are true.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Two things can be true. And so we're dealing with a very good, very talented, very hardworking, deserving person who also was very calculated about employing things that it didn't happen fast.
Right.
It happened very slow.
Right. I mean, in terms of just like it felt like if you didn't know who Macklemore was before 2012, and then all of a sudden,
it seems like it was out of nowhere.
Right. That's what I mean. Like from like a generic music.
But then there's been many years where this you know, it could have I know the situation very well. I know him very well. I've had conversations with him about this. I will just say the only unfortunate thing is that he benefited a lot from underground, and that's usually the case where there's an underground movement. So we all know Nirvana, but in the Pacific Northwest, it's like, no, we were all grinding like this, and then they made it. You know what I mean? So sometimes you'll have a situation where people really want you to know. They want to also allow their success to be helpful to the people whose grind helped them. Right. So like when Eminem got his first Grammy, Eminem stood up there and he knew that white America had never heard intricate rhyming like this before. Right. Because before him, you could only be on the radio if it was funky, Colt Medina. Right. Again, no diss to Tone Loc. But like you had to be simple to be on the radio. White people did not want to hear intricate rapping. When Eminem came along, he knows white America doesn't know. Broader America, mainstream America doesn't know who I'm on the shoulders of. So he took out a list and he said, Cool G Rap. And he read this whole list of artists that he knew weren't known because he benefited from them. And then he also wanted his success to benefit them. So every day he's got a t-shirt on with like these artists that people don't know.
Yeah.
And so
to this day.
Yeah. So just the one critique about our dear brother, and I'm saying, I'm not just being polite when I say the other side.
Right.
Like really hardworking, beautiful guy, done a lot of great things. And this Gaza thing is like, man, it's beautiful. You know, but there's another chance when they say you're the only rapper saying anything. He knows also that's not true. Like, you know what I mean? So if somebody says to me, Brother Ali, you did this and this and this and this and this, I'm going to say, yes, I learned a lot from Immortal Technique. I'm going to shout out all the people that came before me that aren't known.
I say that too all the time. You bringing up Immortal Technique. I'm like, yo, like, there's obviously you touched on what's going on in your music, but you know, when I was 16, like Immortal Technique was like, you would learn like, about the shit you never even heard of. I just don't know who the young generation's version of Immortal Tech is anymore. I don't know if it exists.
Well, I don't think they're rapping. I think it is like 19 keys.
It might be like TikTok or 19 Keys or a podcast or something. But yeah, it's like when I was growing up, like, dude, you were learning about all kinds of CIA.
And 19 Keys can rap. Did you see him on Sway?
Yeah, he just freestyled. He
like,
killed
what
it.
The hell? Like, man.
No, he sent me his album. His album's dope.
Amazing.
No, but for sure, it's like we had Immortal Tech and certain artists where you would be like, you would learn shit.
Yes.
And it'd make you question
You
shit.
could actually develop a political lens by listening to your favorite artists.
Yes.
And,
or at least have nuance or have like perspective and at least open up your viewpoint a little bit, you know?
And now that's not the case.
Yeah.
Yo, don't forget, we got to tell you about our sponsors at MyBookie, baby. That's right. It's that time, man. Super Bowl's back. Eagles versus Chiefs. So much action to get on, and it's all going down at MyBookie. This is what I love about MyBookie, man. It's not just about picking who's going to win, the Chiefs or the Eagles. It's about all of the crazy props that MyBookie's giving you. I'm talking about everything from the coin toss to the Gatorade color at the end of the game that gets spilled. to the national anthem length. It all happens. You could bet on anything and everything at MyBookie. That's right. All right. You can sign up right now. Use the promo code Bootleg when you sign up at MyBookie for that first deposit bonus. They're going to get you hooked up. This is what I love about MyBookie too, man. Super easy to win, super easy to get paid, whether you want that cash, whether you want that credit, you want that crypto. They're making it happen for you. And man, bonuses for every type of deposit. It's amazing, man. The loyalty program, man. I've been using MyBookie for about a decade now. So many props. I think the Shore prop, let's just ride that. Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown. And we're going to parlay that with Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown. Because you know Jalen Hurts going to get that tush push. Certain point of time in that game, the tush push is going to go down for the tutty. Combine them. Do a nice little two leg joint. You know what I'm saying? Or go 1-1. And I do think it's crazy that the Chiefs are only favored, I think, by 1.5, 2 points. You got to ride the Chiefs. You got to ride Patty Mahomes in the Super Bowl. It's just what he does. I know we can't stand the Chiefs for the most part, but it's Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. All right, look, go to MyBookie, get in on the action right now. Use that promo code Bootleg for that first deposit bonus. It all goes down, man. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Also want to give a shout out to our family over at Blue Chew, baby. That's right. A lot of people asking, does Blue Chew work? Find out for yourself. Get a month supply for free. Go to bluechew.com right now. Sign up. Get that month supply for free, $99. All you got to do is pay $5 in shipping. Now, what is Blue Chew? Man, this is the best part about it. It's definitely for your erectile dysfunction. It's definitely if you want to have the best sex of your life. It's definitely if your dick wants to be harder than it's ever been in, your existence. Nothing like that Blue Chew boner. Yeah, all right? So look, active ingredient as Viagra and Cialis, but it's in a chewable form, and you don't have to go into a doctor's office for these Blue Chews. All you got to do is sign up online. It's all handled on the internet, and it's delivered right to your doorstep in a nice, discreet package, and your package will be packing. It's going to be as hard as fucking, college arithmetic. Yeah, it's going to be fucking rocked up, all right? So if you want to get that Blue Chew cracking, man, try it for free for a month right now. Just pay $5 shipping, go to bluechew.com ASAP. Let's get back to the interview.
And, and I've been thinking about this and talking about it a lot. And that's why I also think, like, whatever people's nuanced opinions of the Kendrick thing are, Kendrick reestablished that hip-hop is that voice. And in a lot of ways, you mentioned Islam, and in a lot of ways, Islam has been that voice. You think about the first time that this person got elected, they brought, I'm getting chills thinking about this, but they brought Dave Chappelle and Tribe Called Quest on Saturday Night Live.
I remember, yeah.
And they're all Muslim. Like, everybody on the stage is Muslim. And those are the people that are going to get the worst of whatever this is. Comforting America, basically.
Right. And it just happened too.
And it just happened
Dave
again.
Dave just did was it right after the election?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just
right
had
around
Dave come out again.
Yeah.
And again, it's something about Dave's voice during those monologues.
It just feels like, and that's the big lie of American life that just constantly gets repeated, is like we cannot live without black people, but we hate being compared to them.
Right.
And it's like, well, we can't deny you physically and talent wise. So what we're going to do is create these narratives that you're not as human, and you're not nuanced, and you're not dynamic, and you're not sensitive, and you're not, you're just a very talented mega superhero brute. You're not really fully human. But what happens over and over and over again is whenever we're in a jam, we go back to black voices to like help us make sense of this mess that we made that you're going to catch the worst brunt of again. And it's always there. You're dealing with the mother and father of humanity. You're dealing with the original people. Right. So it's like every great thing is from them. You know what I mean? And there's nothing self-deprecating about that. It's like saying my grandparents are amazing.
Right.
My mom is amazing. You know what I mean? It's like we are all in one way or another the inheritors and the recipients of that. And that's what I mean when I say that to be connected culturally is to have no problem giving it up, to take pride in giving it up to who did I learn from?
Right.
Who came along when there were no Grammys for this stuff? And who who destroyed their voices and maybe their families and maybe their whatever to build this thing. Right. So that someone like a Macklemore could learn all of that and then to be asked and to not and to deny even. You know what I mean? To deny that. that there's any influence. I don't listen to them. I heard Scapegoat and I never listened to anything.
Oh, I didn't see that. So yeah.
Or when
That's what I'm
people
saying,
or when people would ask to always push it away and downplay it, that was a very conscious decision that was made by a person who's otherwise very beautiful, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, if you've heard, like you said, the Sage Francis of the world, what you guys have been doing. I mean, obviously there's some.
If you hear Sage Francis,
there has to be some sort of influence there.
It's absolute. Well, I mean, so on his first album before he got famous, there's a song called Contradiction. Macklemore. This is Macklemore song called Contradiction. He's saying, I say I'm about this, but I really do this. He's like, I say I'm sober, but sometimes I smoke weed. Right. I say I'm this, but sometimes I'm not. He ends the song by saying, I bought 50 Cent and burned Brother Ali. What does that say about me? So by his own admission, he's saying, what I am about is Brother Ali.
But I didn't buy
But I did not buy Brother Ali's
CD.
album. I bought the 50 Cent album, which is the antithesis of what my music is about.
Right.
This is the contradiction I am. He also shouted A$AP Rock out when he's got a song about being white and a white thing. And he's like, A$AP Rock is the great, you know. So these are choices that are made. And right. Like, if we're going to be truthful, that's all it is. You know what I mean? So, and this is the only reason I'm saying this, because I never spoke against him ever. Even when he was coming out, when he was successful, it made me happy that he was successful. And it makes me more happy that LP is successful because LP was in those trenches.
Def Jux, baby.
LP was in those trenches.
For years.
But I'm saying for somebody to learn from those trenches and also learn how to carry oneself in a way that's respectable.
Right.
It's not just there's musical styles. Like if you listen to the way the Atmosphere songs are constructed and Ryan Lewis. Now, I know that Ryan Lewis had an hour-long conversation with Joe Mabbitt, our mix engineer, about how are you mixing these Brother Ali records so that we focus on this type of very intimate, personal thing. I know all of those stories. I know that their album was manufactured in Minnesota where the Rhymesayers albums were made. I know all those details. But there's something about also benefiting from someone who came along and like, what does it look like for a European American person, white person, Caucasoid, whatever, to be on stage with Rakim and Rakim hands him the mic and is like, this is the guy. You know what I'm saying? But then you look at Marlon Craft. So Marlon Craft just had that moment with
Marlon's amazing.
With Method Man. I'm getting chills thinking about this because Method Man just did a song with Marlon Craft, did not charge him a penny.
No, I love Marlon.
And then he's
a friend of the show.
And then he did the video with Marlon Craft and would not take money. Then he came to Marlon Craft as curating a weekly or like a night in New York with a band. Method Man comes out to the thing and says, I want everybody to know I love this dude. I rock with this dude. But if you ask Marlon Craft, where are you learning this from? You know what I mean? Marlon Craft came out on tour with me and Evidence. Me and Evidence toured again. We made an album together. We'll always give it up. Marlon Craft is a little different guy. He comes from the culture.
He's from Hell's Kitchen.
In a way that I think, or if you talk to Evidence, and you say, Evidence will say, I could only be in the room a lot of times because he's from Venice. A lot of people think Ev's Puerto Rican. A lot of people are like, there's no way that's soulful, man.
Michael Peretta.
White. He's Italian. Mm-hmm. But he says, Raka taught me. Mm-hmm. Raka Ira Sirens taught me how to be in these rooms. Mm-hmm. Raka took me to somebody's house that just got home from prison. This is Evidence telling a story. And I asked him, what'd you do? Raka pulls me in the other room and says, here we don't say what'd you do, we say what they get you for. You know what I mean? This is like to be taught and to be instructed, whether it's direct or whether it's just from watching it. What you do in culture is you benefit from people who don't get the recognition, and then you allow your recognition to also benefit them. That didn't happen. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Have you guys ever talked?
Yes.
Like in the last, like recently?
Not recently, but we talked about this. So
you guys had this conversation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm saying, and it's interesting because so many people in the music industry ask me about it. Why does he sound like you? Why is this so much like you? Why does it sound so much like Atmosphere? Why does this, why don't you ask him? But they don't. But Talib Kweli asked him on the podcast, and I can let people watch it. It was unfortunate. Macklemore said, I think that my success has really had an impact on Ali. And it's not his success. I'm happy for his success. There's a history of lies of omission where You know, a lot of people for a long time didn't know that You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog isn't an Elvis Presley song. It's a Big Mama Thornton song. Right. A lot of people don't know that. And so you say, even if you go back and say, okay, we're going to pay her royalties, she taught you how to present that, how to phrase it, how to, you hear, it's a historical thing. It's a historical thing that happens, that when somebody gets recognized for something, you have the choice to either shed the light on the people that you learned from, whether he likes us the best or not. I know I'm one of his favorites, or I was at some point, but he learned a lot from that group of people. And he's not the only one. And it's interesting because other people that also had that booking agent, that I was like one of his first artists, a lot of the things that Macklemore did, he wanted me to do. So I had said the F word about gay people in my first album, and then I realized how that was a cruel thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, times change. That word obviously has not aged the best, but
I was wrong when I said it.
Right.
The fact that everybody else said it, I was wrong.
Right.
So I made a song where I said something correcting that. And Zach Quillen, who is Macklemore's manager, comes to me and says, you just made the first ever pro-gay hip-hop song. You need to be the first rapper on Ellen. We need to make a campaign out of this. And I said, no, that's corny to me, because it's not my issue.
Right.
I'm just correcting a bad thing that I did.
Yeah.
Like, I did a cruel thing. I don't want to be a cruel person. I need to take myself to account. And he said, man, you're missing a big opportunity. So he took that and applied it to Macklemore. But you got to make the song that's going to be the thing, and you're going to be the first. So now here he is on stage. This is the first pro-gay hip-hop song. He's from a city where there are gay. There's a women of color that are LGBT called The Satisfaction. Mm-hmm. Dream Hampton did a video for them. They're down with Ish from Diggable Planets and Shabazz Palace. It's well known, but also, this is a story taken. This is something that I thought was corny for me to do. Right. That's like, okay, we'll just take it and apply it there. So when you're on that stage, it's like, I'm not the first to do this. There are others that have done it. You know what I mean? Merce made a video where he kissed a dude in the video.
I remember that.
It's called Animal Style.
I remember
because Merce is really with the ish at all times.
For sure.
Merce is he's from Mid City.
For sure.
And he's like, hey, if you don't like them, don't like me either. What's up? You know what I mean? Right. Mercer's a straight man, married, got a bunch of kids. Yeah. Married a beautiful Brazilian lady, 100%. Got a bunch of babies.
He's the best.
But he's like, hey man, you want to fight gay people? Here's me kissing a dude on a thing.
Right.
I wouldn't have done it exactly that way, but that's how. Yeah. But Merce is 1,000 with whatever he's doing.
For sure.
You know what I mean? That's one of my dearest friends. So it's like, man, you know all this.
Right.
So it's like, along with being a beautiful person, along with all the good he's done, he also paid Grandmaster Caz and Grandmaster Caz, Melly Mel, and Kool Mo D a bunch of money to be in it. He made a video called it's about motor scooters.
Oh yeah, that song's hard too. Fuck, I forget the name of that song.
Yeah, he made the song. He wanted an old school
and they
thing.
were in it, yeah.
He reached out to Big Daddy Kane. Big Daddy Kane is a mentor of mine. He said, Kane, who should I get in this? He said, if you really want to get legends, who you got to get. And he put them on. Macklemore put him in the video. He paid them. He's done a lot of good things. That's one area where he didn't. And so I wasn't planning on talking about this today. Yeah. But he's done so many good things. He is a good person. I think he's good with me. And what he told Kweli that what was confusing to him is like, Ali is so loving to me. But then he also has feelings about whatever. And I'm like, yes, I'm loving to you because I love you. Right. You're very lovable, like undeniable.
Great guy. Yeah.
If you're in a room with this person,
he's
it's just like, man, oh, come on, man. Well, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah. But but when there's an injustice, we have to tell the truth about that's an injustice. That's an injustice that in the time that something could have happened, it didn't. So he's got the Grammy, he's got money. What he wants now is to be respected. And so Gaza is one of those things where he is really genuinely speaking about stuff, even though he's not as connected to it, you know what I mean? But he is speaking. There are people there are sponsorships that he probably could have gotten that will walk away from him. He's making real sacrifices.
Yeah, he's definitely made some sacrifices, because I know it's like doing a lot of the protests and stuff and performing at them. Like, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that like people are losing visas, and the idea of like people being kicked out of school for protesting, and I mean,
So
it's like the opposite of freedom.
I've had a file with the Department of Homeland Security since Uncle Sam Goddamn came out. They took money from me when I was on tour. They seized my tour money. They came to my house and banged on my door on my birthday and scared my daughters and the FBI tried to come into my house. I've had, I've been strip searched. I've been harassed. I've been pulled off airplanes. I've been going through all of this for a very long time. You know what I mean? But to see somebody like that step in the way that he can, this is a conversation about him now, which is not what I intended. But we're in a very interesting place in the world, and so when people make the decision to try to say something, it's admirable by all counts, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think it's, I think we're just like you said, we're in a weird place in the world, man, where it's like, sometimes I'll read stuff out loud and I'll be like, this is a thing? Like, like, if we're supposed to be in America, where like, you're supposed to have freedom to protest. And the First Amendment is supposed to be the one thing we hold above all. Yeah. But if there's just one thing. Right. That they'll get you up out of here for.
Mark Lamont Hill wrote a book called Everything Except Palestine.
Yeah, and it's so shout out to him, by the way.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But it's just interesting because, I think about I can't think of the guy's name, the journalist. I've watched him for years. He ended up leaving MSNBC when all this happened because he's what's his name? Okay. You might know. He's Middle Eastern. He had a show on MSNBC. And when all this shit happened, he left. He had to leave. It's almost like, it's just crazy. It's just, like I said,
Mahdi Hassan.
Yeah, that's him. But we're living in like the upside down world. But it's not necessarily the upside down world. I feel like it's always kind of been the world. It's just now it's a little bit more. Now it's with TikTok and social media, you can't hide from what's happening. Yeah. And even they try to get TikTok up out of here. You know what I'm saying? It was
while at the same time saying we're gonna clamp down less on Facebook, which is like we know who's on Facebook,
right?
But but TikTok has to be, and we know who's on TikTok.
And that's the thing, because if the youth,
it's like, is it free speech or is it just the speech I like?
Exactly, and that's the one thing where it's like, okay, like, we're getting to this point where both sides are trying to act like they're free speech absolutists, but they're both very full of shit in terms of like what they cherry pick, Yeah. And that is the one thing about X is there's some crazy shit on X. But on X, at the very least, like, it seems as if, unless you like talk about Elon Musk in a negative way, he'll block you. But I see a lot, like Sean King's still thriving on X. Like they got Sean King the fuck up out of here. Yes. Sean King had on Instagram, I feel like on IG at least, Sean King was showing everybody what was happening in Gaza, and then with like a Thanos finger snap, he was just gone from the internet. And I'm like, what? This is crazy. Yeah. But he was still at least on X. But TikTok, I'm not big on TikTok, but I know it was interesting that the conversation went from all of these people were against banning TikTok. And then a few years passed, probably 2 years passed or whatever. And then all of a sudden, conveniently, everybody's in unison that TikTok should be banned. Yeah. And it was like, well, what changed? October 7th happened, which obviously, however you feel about what happened on October 7th, it was, a lot of people died. It was very sad. It was a situation that nobody would condone. But when you look at the full context and nuance of the last, 100 years, however many years, right? It's a full picture thing, and the propaganda and a lot of the misleading of what actually happened that day and whether or not it was purposely allowed to happen.
Man, and there was an incredible amount of lies told.
A lot of lies and a lot of it would seem that it was allowed to happen because I mean, listen, not to get too deep into the weeds of conspiracy theorists, but you would need a really big excuse to have to go in and take Gaza, right? Because that's always been it's never been a secret that's what they want, especially with the West Bank. Yeah. And so now you have the biggest excuse you can. You can do whatever you want, and for the most part, people are gonna, But the thing is, and then social media comes in. So for the most part, people aren't the younger generation's like, nah, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And so that's my thing. It's like, at the end of the day, however you feel about Israel as a country, however you feel about what happened on October 7th, if you could be honest about what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank.
Yeah.
And, you know, do you want to be on the right side of history or not?
I mean, why do we respect Muhammad Ali so much? It's like, yeah, he was the greatest boxer of all time, no doubt. And he was very handsome and charismatic and smart and all that kind of stuff.
But he stood on something, for sure.
We respect Muhammad Ali because at the height, and he did this more than once, by the way, but at the height of that man's success, career, physical prowess, they said, yeah, fine, you can be with Elijah Muhammad all you want, but we're going to induct you into the army and put a uniform on you, and we're basically going to stop you. You don't have to. They weren't even going to make him go fight.
Yeah, because we could propagandize that.
We're going to put a uniform on you and let everybody know who's boss. And he said, no, you're very not, actually. And so he gave up his success at the height of his physical prowess for several years. He went broke doing it, similar to Colin Kaepernick, similar to Dave Chappelle when he walked away from all that money.
Yeah.
Similar to what, and that's there's just no way around that. But that's why we love and admire and respect that man so much. And the way that people felt about him at that time was not different than somebody speaking out against Gaza right now. There's somebody speaking against Vietnam at that time in that place, and people hated him for it. And
now we look back. Yeah, exactly. Time tells the truth, right? So it's like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's like interesting because, like, I was like very much a part of the political spectrum where I couldn't bring myself to vote for Kamala Harris because of her involvement.
It's tough, man.
And I looked at Jill Stein and I was like, I feel good about the vote. I mean, I know she's not going to win, but I feel good about the vote. And in my head, I'm like, well, nobody can do worse than what the last couple years have been.
And how do you feel now?
And now, I mean, look,
which I hate when people say that. Now, how do you feel? That's not what I mean.
The ceasefire obviously happened, and I'm like, okay, at least something. Cool. But now with this, oh my God, it's like, I think this could be. We all were worried about the Russia-Ukrainian war and the war with Israel and Hamas kind of sparking World War III. I think there's a serious chance that us trying to bully our way into Gaza, I don't know if the rest of the world's going to stand for that. And by the rest of the world, I mean, I don't know if China's standing for us taking over Gaza. I don't know if, it's pretty crazy when you say it out loud. And like, it's kind of become, it's just wild, man.
It's on TikTok now. The difference is TikTok. But I mean, it's not different from the entire continent of Australia didn't have a single white person on it.
Right.
There was a multitude of thriving peoples on that island. Turtle Island, what we call America now, was an entire civilization of all these different beautiful tribes and all these people that didn't have a single. Africans were here before Europeans came here.
Right.
I mean, this is the same thing that's happened. We're living in what used to be Gaza to the Native Americans.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when we go to these, it's so striking when we go to like these beautiful sites. You go to the Grand Canyon, and like I'm crying because it's beautiful, but I'm also crying because I know what this meant to a group of people who had a spiritual bond with this place.
Right.
And how many of their women had to be raped and their children to be killed and their leaders to be killed and hung up in public in front of everybody. And I know what had to happen for that for this to just now it's a national park.
Yeah, I feel like,
and so
it's interesting because back then when there was settlements and settlers and people being, cleansed off their land and all of the murder and all, there was no social media. This was a new frontier. Now we see it all. So it's like, now it's like, it's almost like that's the thing with the Gaza situation. It's like, I just don't understand. Like I've unfollowed people because however you feel about Israel and its right to exist, that's one thing. But
that's
to
ideological.
lack empathy,
yeah,
or at the very least, try to tell yourself what you're seeing isn't what you're seeing. To me, is just crazy.
also not new, brother. So I mean,
No, you're right.
You think about like, well, what was Booker T. Washington? Booker T. Washington wrote the slave narrative because, he was the child of a white slave owner who raped a black enslaved person, and then he was sent away to a new family to be split up from his family. The woman took a certain amount of sympathy on him and loved him, the white woman, and she taught him to read. And the husband tortured her for that.
Crazy.
And and then she actually became as evil as any slave owner because she was tortured for teaching him to read and for thinking he was a human being and for loving him and treating him like a child. The husband tortured her to the point that she became cruel. Booker T. Washington, but now he knows how to read, he knows how to write, and he's actually brilliant. And he escapes and he gets north and he realizes, oh, the white people here don't know what slavery actually is. If they knew what slavery was, everybody would be against it. So he wrote a slave narrative, and they said, "There's no way that this beautiful thing. True. Well, there's no way that this black man, even though he's light skinned, there's no way he actually wrote this,
right?
Because they can't write like this." That became the conversation.
Right.
Did he plagiarize it?
Right.
Did somebody white write it for him? That became the conversation. So it's like in the dunya, there's good mixed with bad.
Right.
In ourselves, there's good mixed with bad.
Right.
That's the human condition. And also in the dunya, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So I mean, that was the TikTok of its time, where pamphlets.
That was the TikTok, yeah. Pamphlets, and word of mouth, newspapers,
and going
books,
around and making speeches, and what is...
I think now the visual aspect of it is just, it's like undeniable, There
were postcards during that time. So it's funny when I talk to people about race and they're like, I know what happened to black people. No, you don't.
Right.
I've been studying this since I was 8 years old, and I'm still learning something new every day about people whose skins were used to make furniture. Like you learn something new every day. It's an ocean without a shore.
Right.
During that time, people, excuse me if this is traumatic for people, may Allah ennoble you, but they would hang people, they would hang black men and castrate them, and they would cut off their ears, and they would, save them as trinkets and things like that. And they made postcards, and they sent the postcards to their family members. You know what I mean? And this is not a made up thing. Like you can go to certain museums and places like that and see these postcards. These postcards were sent all over America. There were physical pictures. People have denied this type of brutality the whole time that this part of the world has been this part of the world.
Right.
We've been denying this. It's who we are now. It's not how this isn't how it is. This is what it is.
Right. What was your inspiration to, I guess, discover Islam and be so, I guess a separate question would be I just kind of be so engaged in trying to educate yourself on this stuff?
So it started because of hip hop. Man, one of my first memories was, or like that really sticks with me, is seeing Minister Farrakhan on Donahue.
Okay.
The first time. He was on there twice. It's masterful. And everybody should go on YouTube and watch both of those. It's one of the most, even just as an oratorical display, it's one of the most amazing things ever. But as a little kid, I was always really deeply troubled. Like, man, America is lying about black people. I didn't know the whole history. I didn't know why. But I'm like... And so seeing Farrakhan on TV with Phil Donahue, and like I look more like Donahue than I do Farrakhan.
Right.
And man, I'm just like, this is incredible. So that was my first time. But then hearing it in hip hop and things like that. And then when I was 13 years old, I went and saw KRS-One give a lecture, and he brought me on stage. I asked a question, he brought me on stage, and he told me I should read the autobiography of Malcolm X. And
I read that book when I was like 12, 13. Yeah.
Same. And then the movie came out. But like we grew up in hip hop.
Right.
So to us, Malcolm X is like the Jesus Christ of hip hop.
Yo, but then you start to you're like, yo, Malcolm X was like a player. The Detroit Red era of his life.
He
he
had a gangster period.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So the whole time I'm reading this book, I'm like, this is the most so he's
such a great book.
He's dope.
Oh.
He was a street guy. He was whatever. And he's also like an urban guy and a city guy at the same time, and like he's everything. And so I'm like, I'm not allowed to be in this movement, but I'm just gonna imitate them. I believe in what they believe in. I'm gonna do what they do, even though I'm not allowed to join. So then Malcolm goes to Mecca, and he's like, oh, there are people here that in America would be called white, but they're not white. He's like, white is a mentality. Just like for years, they would say to black people, we are the so-called Negro. Just because everybody says that's what we are, we existed before anybody else. So like, what is this title now, Negro?
Yeah.
The same is true for European people. It's only been a couple hundred years that there was an idea of somebody called white. And that was a very specific branding thing that was done to try to unite all of the European peasants to stop fighting the landowners and the oppressors in Europe and to be on the same team. That like, we're going to be on the same team. We're all going to be white. And trust me, you're part of it. You're at least you're not going to be at the bottom of the social order. And so we're on hundreds of years of that lie. So the first thing was that Islam addressed that lie. Malcolm said, these people, they're not white in how they are. And he said, if white Americans would learn Islam, study Islam, it would help them become human again. And I was like, okay, that's all I've been waiting for.
Right.
Then I had to like learn and figure it out and find a community and blah, 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 blah. So it's been a journey like that ever since. And now my family, like we've lived in Istanbul, Turkey for the last 4 years. My wife's also a convert. And the more I learn, the more I love it.
So you're in Turkey?
I've been living in Istanbul 4 years. I do not live in this country.
How is it out there?
Dope. And difficult.
When
and
you
stressful.
take a flight home, or rather, when you
which
fly
one is
here-
home? Which home?
Okay, when you're flying out of Turkey, how many guys have the head wrap because they had their? I know so many of my,
they
get their hair.
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
They go out there. They get. I guess like I mean, obviously it's the world leader for scalp surgery or whatever. But my boy went out there. He's like, yo, they got the hotel on lock. It's like 5-star service. They take you to and from.
Yeah.
But I heard Turkey's beautiful.
Well, yeah. If you're it's like any other place. Like if you go to the tourist location, there's only tourists there.
I'm friend with a lot of Armenians, man. They got that, the Turkey versus Armenia thing is
In LA, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Specifically in LA. Yeah.
for sure, sure. Yeah.
And so people ask me about that. And my critique has always been of groups that I'm in, places where I have influences and where I pay my taxes. I'm not a Turk. I'm not a citizen of Turkey. I don't vote for I don't have any power in Turkey. My audience is not a Turkish audience. I don't have influence in Turkey, and I don't pay my taxes in Turkey. My influence, my taxes, and my voting are here. And so I am critical of groups that I'm in
For sure.
and people that listen to me. So,
What inspired you to go out there?
so my wife actually studied in Turkey for a summer.
Okay.
There's like these like intensives when you become a Muslim, you can go and spend a whole summer and they just bombard you with learning. It's
Right.
more than you can possibly take in, but you get a lay of the land. And she came back and she was like, yo, okay, this is the specific type of practice that we're going to start doing going forward. And someday we're going to live in Istanbul. She's like, you need to live in Istanbul. And so she told me that like 10 years ago. And I was like, okay, like her instincts are undefeated. I know this, if she's serious about something, there's truth there. So I'm like, okay, all right. So I started visiting. And then during the pandemic, it's like, yeah, now might as well be the time.
That's dope, man. Yeah. Was it? I always feel like that's why I always tell people like I always will talk to like people who have only lived in one city or one area in their life. I'm like, sometimes you just gotta. Obviously, being in radio, I've lived all over the country, and I feel like just traveling in general. Obviously, being a touring artist, you get to have a lot of nuance and perspective because you've been all over the world,
Yeah.
But a lot of people lack that because they just know where they're at. And it's so hard. It's easy to tell somebody to travel if they got a full-time job, and they only have two weeks a year of vacation, But
It's very
I
difficult.
just think it's so important, man, to get nuance and perspective of the world.
Well, especially if you're in the dominant group. And people in the dominant group don't realize they're in the dominant group. Like that's ultimately, unless you grow up in hip hop and you're the only person that looks like you're in the room. And you're like, oh, this is actually the reality. I'm trying to see what's up with this.
For sure.
But for most people, if you're an American, even if you don't have money, even if you're like the world media is telling your story and projecting your culture. And you don't realize that unless you're not from that. And so, yeah, it's like it's very difficult to get, like we don't know ourselves until we know what the alternate version of us is. Like you can have a doctorate degree in the English language. Until you learn another language that's very different from English, you don't really know your language because you only know it as an insider. It's like if you go visit a culture and like they only know each other, you're like, oh, you guys do this differently. And they're like, no, what do you mean? Like, this is
What is
everybody,
different? Yeah, no.
This is what everybody does.
Yes.
So for Americans, it's like, yeah, man. And it's fine, go to Europe. That's cool. But like, man, see what's up with Ethiopia. See what's up with the Gambia. See what's up with Lebanon. See what's up with, Vietnam. And go away from
Asia's crazy.
Go away from where the tourists are.
For sure.
Don't be in a tourist area. Go in a place that like, well, we don't speak the language. Yes, that's the point.
That's where you want to be.
We don't know anybody here. That's the point. And watch how beautiful people are to you. Wherever you go, like, man, people will help you. They will feed you. They will smile at you. They will welcome you. They will, wherever you go. And you just start really realizing like there is a common human thing.
There is.
That's what you get to when you start with you, but you got to know different types of humans to learn what's my culture, what's our thing, and then what part is the human thing. Mm-hmm. Because so much of what we talk about is just the American thing.
Yes, the American perspective. Hey, we're about to kick off another interview brought to you by Hardin. That's right. If you're in Vegas, it's the #1 dispensary in the country, the craziest selection of premium cannabis. And all you got to do is shoot them a follow, Hardin_Las Vegas, HardinLasVegas.com. When you're in Vegas, tell them I sent you. Let's get into the interview. Yeah, baby. Shout out to our family at Odd Socks. Ooh, look at the ODB socks right here. All right, look, go to OddSocksOfficial.com, Naruto socks. Oh, here's a pair of Bootleg Kev socks. That's me. Yeah. Some ET boys, Anyway, as y'all know, man, Odd Socks, the most comfortable socks in the world. It's all I wear on my feet. It's all I have on my ass because the underwear are amazing. Give me some of these draws. Let's take a look at some of these underwear we got. We got so many pairs of underwear here. Just draws on top of draws on top of draws on top of draws. What are these? Some Naruto 2XL underwear. I can't fit in those. I'm not going to lie. I'll be swimming in those. But nonetheless, if you go to OddSocksOfficial.com, they got all the crazy licenses, man. Whatever you're into, they got it. Scarface, Nickelodeon, Coca-Cola. They got what you need. How about a little Street Fighter, huh? How about a little Office? You like The Office. Who doesn't like The Office? One of the greatest shows of all time. This is one of their newer licenses. They got the Dunder Mifflin boys. Yeah, I mean? So shout out to The Office, Tapatio. I mean, look, it's just endless possibilities over at Odd Socks. OddSocksOfficial.com. Use the promo code BOOTLEG right now, and you will get 20% off at checkout. And happy birthday to Odd Socks. Just celebrated 11 years, baby. Yeah. Congrats to Odd Socks. Let's get back to the interview. You brought D1 out on the road with you. D1 is one of my favorite guys, man. Such a sweet dude. He's been grinding for years, too.
Yes.
But he's like an outlier in today's landscape, where he's got, such a pure heart and a message that I feel like rubs the establishment the wrong way sometimes. Yeah. But talk about like your guys' friendship and,
Yeah. So I've known D for over 10 years.
Because he's he's obviously dropped album with Murs, but he's a Christian.
Yes. Yeah, and matter of fact, we were bonding over that.
I have his children's books over on the shelf somewhere. Yeah.
That children's book was the #1 selling item on my tour. He came out and opened for me and made the most of that. I loved it. He had a 45-minute set. He did 7 songs. It was mostly him talking about his message,
right,
his book, the whole thing. And man, he won over every single person.
It's amazing.
And he is who he says he is.
Yes.
And what I have to be, we were talking, and he's like, we both have stood so hard. When I first came in as an MC, I was not as true to Islam as he has been to Christianity. I used to curse like crazy. I used to talk crazy.
Well, he's had his own evolution as well,
To a degree.
Yeah.
But I respect him, admire him. And when he said those things, it's like I didn't plan here coming to talk about anybody. He went to Sway one time not planning to talk about anybody. But Sway was like, he was talking about glorifying violence. And Sway was like, what do you mean? And so D had just given out shoes. He does all kind of giveaways in New Orleans. He had just given out shoes that said reform on the bottom. They were Meek Mill's prison reform shoes. He's like, I just promoted this because I was so happy that Meek Mill was talking about prison reform. But he just made a song with Rick Ross and Jim Jones where they're talking about killing people. So he's like, what are we doing? Are we trying to reform prison, but also encourage people to do things that go to prison?
Get them in prison, yeah.
So he said, Meek Mills, you could do better, brother. I love you too much not to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And he said, Rick Ross, you could do better. Jim Jones, you could do better.
And it turned into this thing, yeah.
They threatened his life.
Yeah, it's crazy.
2 of the 3 of those people threatened his life, and it's not a joke.
It's crazy.
Like if a head person that's deeply entrenched in the street in Harlem they went back to Sway a few days later and said, I might not touch you, but I can't stop, my little one of my nephews, one of the young guys on the block, from putting in work for you just because they know you're trying to get clout off me. That's a green light on your head at that point.
Right.
Now, he has made peace with 2 of the 3 of them. Rick Ross is the only one that he hasn't. But I just saw he had pictures with Meek Mill. He got with Jim Jones. They threatened him, and it wasn't a joke.
Yeah.
And, these are the people that it's like, when you look back, you say, like, that is a person that really, you talking about standing on business. Everybody wants to have nice things. Everybody wants to succeed. That's not special. If you achieve it, it is special, and we're happy for you. But that's what everybody, it's a special person, though, that says, I will relinquish some of my success for what's right, if that's what it means. Some people pay the ultimate price. We're talking about Malcolm and Martin. Neither one of them saw their 40th birthday.
Crazy.
They paid the ultimate price. Then you talk about Muhammad Ali didn't pay that price, but he paid a price. Mm-hmm. You talking about, I didn't pay the ultimate, but I paid a price. You talking about our guy Macklemore's paying a price, and and D1 is that dude, and it's like, ultimately we're going to die. Like, we're all going to be. There's a place in the earth where we will be buried or burned and scattered or something.
100%.
And it's like, what kind of person do you want to be when you die? What do you want to be the story of you? And nobody ever regretted giving up status, fame, all that for what's right. Because when you die, your status is gone. Nobody knows you. There's no you to know. You know what I mean? Nobody recognizes you. Nobody celebrates you. You don't have things that other people, your grave could be bigger than somebody else. It doesn't matter. But if it's like that person in that hole stood for something, they served others, they told the truth when it was dangerous to do it because they cared about the people that were being harmed. Like, that's different.
Yeah, that's different for sure. And like you said, we think back to like the Muhammad Ali thing, like history, like at that time, people didn't like what was going on. But,
yeah. And all those people that were just sitting there like, how dare you change your name? How dare you become a Muslim? How dare you walk away from these white men that invested this money in you?
Right.
How dare you say that you won't go in the military? Who are you to do any of that? And he's saying, I'm a man. That's who I am. Mm-hmm. And God made me. You didn't make me. We're here together. And I have just as much right as anybody else to say what I think is true. And whatever I have, I'll lose it all. But he did that before. They gave him a gold medal in 1960 when he was 18 in Rome. He wore his gold medal back in Louisville, Kentucky. And him and his mom and his family and everybody went to the segregated restaurants. But then his mom tried to go back without him, and they said, we don't serve colored people here. So Muhammad Ali is like, if this just means that I'm free but my people aren't, I don't want it. He threw his gold medal in the Ohio River.
Crazy. 18.
He didn't know he was going to be the most famous man on earth. He didn't know he'd be the greatest champion ever. He did that because he believed in it. And I'm friends with his daughter, and I was like, did he really throw that? She said, I don't know, Brother Ali, if he really threw that medal in it. But nobody ever found it.
Where's it at? Yeah.
They went through every single thing that man owned. There's like estate sales where you can buy his dishes. Crazy. Nobody found the gold medal. I think that gold medal's in the Ohio River.
Let's get to this album, man. Satisfied Soul. Yeah. You and Ant delivered on the production. Yeah. It's an incredible body of work. How long were you guys working on this? Like, give me the timeline.
Short. It's the easiest record we ever made.
So it wasn't like over some like how long would you say was the overall recording process?
So I made a couple trips to Minneapolis. When I would go back to America, I would go just to see Ant, and we made a couple songs. But then I said, all right, I'm gonna come back here for a month, and we'll start working on it. We made almost the whole record in that month.
Wow.
Yeah, and then some of the things I had to rewrite, and then he went in with musicians and things like that. And so, but the bulk of like, this is the beat, this is the rhyme, this is the song, the bulk of it was in a month.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's like a lot of living, a lot of hurting, and a lot of healing. Like, I was in a place where when I left Minneapolis, I was at a low point in my life. I felt really bad about a lot of stuff. And I just had several years of like healing and growing,
And I'm sure when you're in that position, the pen just is fluid.
yeah, because it's like you
just
got all this
comes
stuff
out.
to say.
Yeah.
I already know how to make it all
You're
rhyme.
inspired, yeah.
Like I've made so much music. We've made so much music together.
Right.
That's the other part. So like,
Yeah, it's not like you were working with someone you had no chemistry with, or you guys know each other's creative process already.
it takes 30 years to be able to make an album in a month. And some people make an album in a week. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But
usually they're not very good. The albums that get made in a week. I'm just saying. But no. I mean, it's for me, man. I feel like it's just good when Brother Ali's putting out music and hitting the.
Man, I appreciate that a lot.
Because I know you're always on the road. I'm actually you're doing. I just saw you're doing a festival in Phoenix, where I'm from.
Yeah, I'm doing.
Was it with Wiz?
The reggae
Damian
Rise
Marley?
Up.
Yeah.
Yep, Damian Marley, Dilated will be there.
Yeah, I'll be there.
And I'm about to do a tour with DJ Abilities DJing for me.
Oh, wow.
So like DMC champion. So anybody so Idea is one of these people that like great, amazing, tremendous MC, one of the most beautiful people we ever knew. He died young and he never got his flowers.
Yes.
Except for in our world.
Right, for sure.
People got his face tattooed on him, but
Yeah.
like he never got. Those are the kind of people that if you win a Grammy and you learned from them, you say his name.
Idea and Abilities, man.
You say Idea sometimes. Right. You say, even if he wasn't your favorite, even if he wasn't your friend. Those are the kind of things that I would respect, But so this was a group of these two amazing white dudes, a super nerdy white dude rapper that like won the Blaze battle on HBO and beat Puffy's guys and all this kind of stuff. And KRS-One had to gave him a trophy. And then his DJ is a movie star looking white dude. Like he looks like Keanu Reeves or something, buff, and he's a yoga teacher and stuff. Amazing turntablist. So these dudes were like child prodigies. Idea passed away. Abilities is going to be my DJ on the next upcoming tour. So it's
That's
like, man,
fire.
having that level of DJ, I don't even know what to do. I don't even know where to start.
You got to give him a little, a little 5 minutes to go crazy, like a Babu type interlude.
Yeah, I'm think that you know what that's the one to follow. Babu with Dilated.
Like when Dilated would like take a break and let Babu just go crazy.
Yeah, man.
Fucking sick.
Yeah, or also nowadays we have Z-Trip and LL.
Oh yeah, it's so dope to see Z-Trip doing shit with LL because he's from my hometown, so it's like.
Oh, you guys are from the same town?
Yeah, we're from Arizona. Yeah,
I didn't know. I knew you're both from Arizona, but I didn't know.
He's
you.
like, Z-Trip.
And Mellow Music. We're partnering with Mellow Music on this album.
Dope.
Mellow Music's in Arizona too.
Yeah, shout out to Z-Trip's a goat, man.
Z-Trip's a beautiful guy.
Yeah. So with this project, man, what for you? Like, give me kind of like because you have. It's easy to say like the latest shit is your favorite shit, but this stacks up amongst some of your best work. Would you say Us is like commercially your biggest album?
It's hard to say.
Of
So basically, I did my demo tape in 2000. I did my first like album in 2003. That was like underground classic before there was distribution or anything. Like that was like it's underground platinum. You know what I mean?
Shadows of the Sun, right?
Shadows of the Sun, yeah. So then the next one that I did was Undisputed Truth. And that one was the beginning of that Warner Brothers deal. Okay. So that was the first one to come out on that thing. And so when that came out, I was on the main stage at Coachella. That did Conan O'Brien and
crazy.
All that. Like there was a time when the music industry was like, this is what I'm saying also, that there was times where the music industry, when they were looking for a new white guy that wasn't Eminem, that was like, they were looking for a positive Eminem.
Right.
They wanted Slug to be that. Slug chose not to be that from Atmosphere. I was in the room when MTV was trying to do that. Rick Rubin tried to recruit him. They all tried to sign him. And Slug said, I never want to blow up because I never want to fall off. He said, if I let you make me a star, then you get to decide when I'm done being a star. If I stay building my own world, I do it as long as I want. And he's still doing it.
Yo, that's that is very. That's one of my. I just met Slug for the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
I figured you had been knowing Slug.
No, I'm a big fan. But I met him. I had Evidence walk me into their trailer. They had a show out here last year with. They headlined. It was them, Dilated, Living Legends.
Rhymefest.
Yeah.
At the LA.
Yeah, Rhymefest, the homie Rhymefest. Yeah, he's the homie throws it. He's doing it again this year too.
Yeah,
but
it's Scooby and 2Mex.
yes,
Yeah, man.
but it's funny because I was like, yo, man, I remember like they were playing you on alternative radio.
Yes.
Which was so crazy because like I remember
They
being a
played
kid,
him on
like
K-Rock.
Yeah, like in Phoenix we had the Edge, and I remember they'd be playing Atmosphere, but I'm like, this is some hip hop shit for real.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was just dope to me because I feel like when we think about you mentioned Tech Nine earlier. Mm-hmm. I feel like Tech Nine and Strange Music, they got so much and rightfully so, they got a lot of credit for kind of being like independent pioneers. I remember Double XL went out and did a tour of their headquarters, and it like broke a lot of people's brains because they're like, how does this exist? How do we not know about this?
Yeah.
And that's when Lil Wayne shouted out Tech when he was in jail.
Yes.
I feel like we don't look at, in the hip hop world, in the hip hop bubble, Atmosphere and Rhymesayers don't get the same
They do not.
accolades
And
or
they
respect.
And part of the reason for that, so first of all, so Tech Nine Atmosphere came up around the same time. So Tech Nine learned a lot of the things that they do from Insane Clown Posse.
Yes, for sure.
So they went on tour with
and
the
ICP
Juggalos.
also. I mean, they're kind of like some godfathers of this independent rap shit for real. If you talk about the way they monetize their merch, and their fan base, and all that. Yeah.
So So he learned from them, and he told the truth about it. You know what I mean?
Every sec he could. Yeah.
But his ability to rhyme just far surpasses them. No diss to them. They're just not top tier lyricists.
Not at all.
Where Tech Nine is a technician. There's a reason.
He is an alien level rapper.
I mean, he really truly is. Mm-hmm. And he built it independently.
Live show is incredible.
Live show is incredible. Everything that they do, like, no one is more dedicated to their craft than Tech Nine. So the difference though between Atmosphere and Tech Nine is that Tech Nine decided, no, y'all are gonna recognize me.
He cared. He said,
and so he went out and fought for that. Atmosphere is like, I don't care who recognizes me.
No, you're right about that.
We don't care who recognizes us.
I actually think that's it.
Yeah.
No, because Tech really gave a fuck. And I remember there was like that point in time where Tech Nine was on the Carter 4.
Yeah.
And you would see like, oh, he's doing a record. I mean, and Tech was always doing records with like 40 and Cube and like certain like, but it was like,
I feel like he has a record with Pop.
He might. I know they were on the same soundtrack back in the day.
Okay.
I think. But I remember he had an album
Roger Troutman. He's got like early joints.
Well, he had an album called All Sixes and Sevens that dropped in 2012, but that was the album that came out that there was the Wayne hype. Wayne shouted him out while Wayne was incarcerated, and then all these, like, you would just like he was fighting. He was like, nah, y'all motherfuckers are gonna give me my just due. And then, however many platinum and gold records later, like shout out to Tech, man. But I think we got to give Atmosphere and Slug and Ant and what y'all boys were doing in Minneapolis, like real, like.
I believe the Atmosphere is one of the greatest and the greatest, most unsung group in hip hop. No one's made more music than them. No one has toured more than them. And what and including, this conversation where I'm like, people that come later and benefit that don't give credit. Slug couldn't care less. He's like, I don't care what anybody does.
Ugly's like 02, 01, 02.
02?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they came out for the first time in 97, but that was the first official release, but they had been doing stuff before that.
But that's got to be double, triple platinum, you would think? I don't know. That just feels like one of those albums that like will live on for, like, they could do it every 5 years. They could do an anniversary vinyl. It'll sell out
every year.
Like, it's the 25th anniversary. It's the 20th anniversary.
It's the 26th
It's the 30th anniversary. Exactly. Yeah.
23rd. Yeah. So yeah, God Loves Ugly, Sevens Travels. They just did a anniversary for You Can't Imagine How Much Fun We're Having, which is my personal favorite one. But in that period, like, I think I'm the biggest Atmosphere fan on earth. I'll fight anybody about it.
And let's not forget about Slug and Murs, 3 classic albums. I like the first 2, but yes, I mean, the Felt shit was amazing. Oh,
yeah,
so good.
Yeah. I mean, and what they inspired, so their way of doing things inspired a whole movement from, whether they know it directly or not. And I've talked to a bunch of these people, but kind of what started happening independently in the blog era, even to a certain degree, like Wiz Khalifa and There was a lot of inspiration from, Dame Dash was mentoring people at that time. There was a lot of things going on at that time, but those guys' booking agent was this person I'm talking about named Zach Quillen, who I was his first very serious like signee as a booking agent. And he really fought for me, and he also really fought for this approach to music. And so who's Don't Make Me Go Pop the Trunk.
Yellow Wolf.
Well, Yellow Wolf was his signee. A lot of those people that came out around that era of like 2009, 2010.
Yeah, that blog era. That was like the meat and potatoes of the blog era.
Yeah, their touring career was in a lot of ways inspired indirectly from Atmosphere.
Yeah, someone like Yellow's done a good job of building his own world that he could just exist in forever if he wants. Mm-hmm. He'll tour forever. He could drop albums forever, and obviously on a different thing than obviously what we're talking about with Atmosphere, because I feel like Rhymesayers as a company, I wish they would have kept the festival going. J. Cole did it one year, right?
Cole did it. Kendrick did it. And one of the things is that they were really good at calling it early on people. So a lot of people did it right before they blew up.
Yeah.
Like the year before they blew up.
Yeah, my boy Peter Parker was out.
I was just texting Peter Parker.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I always give him his flowers because he was the first radio personality I saw on YouTube, like doing like full B96. Was it B96?
And Go 95.
No, Go 90. I'm talking about back in the day.
Okay.
Go 95 was more recent.
Yeah.
But he had like the full YouTube, the whole video camera setup in their studio. So I'd be like,
yeah,
oh, they're doing fucking YouTube videos with
live
their
streams,
interviews
and he was having freestyles and all that stuff. Yeah, he was just stuck in Minnesota where not everybody knew what to do.
Yeah, and then they did a dope thing with Go. It didn't work out long term, but they had a new approach to radio where they were just like, we're just gonna play the shit we want to play, and
it was cool.
And shout out to Minneapolis has always kind of been like that cool city that like flies under the radar, but it's like it's a great music town. Yeah. Great, fucking Prince. What are we talking about?
Prince. Mint Condition.
Yeah, Mint Condition.
Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Mm-hmm. Like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, some of the greatest producers of all time.
Lizzo has roots in Minneapolis.
Lizzo made her thing happen in Minneapolis. Yeah. Like I was there for all of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw all of that. Yeah, she's from Texas, but where
Minneapolis is where she cracked.
Minneapolis is where she
Lizzo.
Learned how to do what she did. Yes. Not that she owes it to anybody in particular. Sure. Her thing is a lot more, It's interesting though that her whole like I'm big and I love myself anyway. The song that did it for me was called Forrest Whitaker, which is basically like I'm albino and I love myself anyway. Mm-hmm. It's a very similar kind of thing. But it's not. She wasn't up in our mix, like studying everything, right. And but she was in. But
she was a part of that world,
yes,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
She was part of that world, and she did a project with one of the other labels. It's called Doomtree, and there's a guy on that, a producer on that label, kind of like the ant of their.
Damn, that's world, crazy. Doomtree's from out there too.
Yeah,
and Minneapolis is like a fucking just a backpack paradise.
It really is, and for everybody, and also every touring band or comedian knows that like when we get to Minneapolis, we're gonna have a good night.
That's what everybody says. The
crowd's gonna be great.
Two cities. I always feel like it's Minneapolis and Denver.
Oh, well, yeah, Denver's rich now though. So Denver got big time on everybody.
Like Denver's like a great. You have to go to Denver. You have to go to Minneapolis. Yeah. So many venues. And I feel like fans show up in those cities for some reason. They just show up.
There's a culture of like, okay, man, they're making music. Like we gotta all go be part of it, and like they know how to be an audience. They also expect a good show.
Have you done Red Rocks?
Yeah, many times.
How amazing is Red Rocks? I've never been. I'm gonna try to go soon. I think Wiz is doing something at Red Rocks on 4th.
And Prof is from Minneapolis.
Prof, shout out to Prof.
Man, Prof is a
it's funny.
Man.
There's 2 or 3 times he was supposed to come on the pod, and then ended up getting rescheduled, or it just didn't end up working out. But Prof's another prolific, independent
very talented person, very hardworking guy. He's another one that like everyone that knows him loves him. Mm-hmm. I don't know him like that, but there's definitely a mutual respect. Every time I see him, it's like I know what it means to work as hard as you're working and to be as dedicated. And man, extremely. And he's another one that he had a period where he was connected to Rhymesayers.
All-time great white rapper city ever, Minneapolis.
Wow, I never thought about that before.
It's true, though. Facts. So you said, so you're already planning the next tour then, if you're already got abilities locked in, and
Yeah, so that tour is announced. That'll be April and May, and then I just announced I'm gonna do a week in the UK, and we have other European stuff coming, and Australia will be coming soon, announcing soon.
that's dope, man. Are you like, for you, is when you put an album out like this and you get so much off your chest, right? Are you the type of person that needs some more living to be inspired for the next thing?
It's great. I used to be.
Or do you still have some more, like obviously it's about 4 years since the last album?
Well, so we did the Love and Service album that nobody knew about. That was just a year ago.
Okay, that was a year ago.
Yeah. So, but yeah, my last like major release was 2019.
Crazy.
And yeah,
was that your last album with Rhymesayers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've done some projects in between them, but like, yeah, this is the first like main release. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be as long now because of the fact that I have my own outlet. Like now I control my own, so like I can literally...
Yeah, like if you get inspired and you want to drop an EP in 6 months, you could just be like, we're going to do it.
And then also I know that I will see every sale come in. Right. And it will all go directly to me and my partner. So BK1, who was the DJ you saw with us back then, he DJ'd for me and Evidence back then. So he was my first DJ, and he comes from radio. He is the one that introduced me to Rhymesayers. Like the closest thing I got to a day one. Right. And he was with me in the Rhymesayers days. He made a really dope record called Radio de Carnaval with Brazilian samples and Doom and Black Thought and Scarface are on it. It's a dope album. So he did that, and then he left the road, and he started an anti-racist radio station, low-watt radio station in Minneapolis. This guy is dope. So when I stepped away from Rhymesayers and moved to Turkey, I just let him know. I was like, I'm going to start my own podcast. I'm going to start my own operations. I want to write. I want to teach. I want to do so-and-so. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that with you. I'm like, what you mean? Like along with you? He's like, no, I'm leaving the radio station anyway. I'm going to dedicate my life to this again. Oh. Yeah, man.
So you guys are added together.
So now it's different when you release music and you put it out and you go on Spotify for artists and you watch the streams. And then you go on DistroKid on your phone and you watch the money. And then you go on Shopify and you watch the merch. And then you go on your website and you watch and then you go to your bank account and it all adds, it's all there.
Yeah.
And then you split it with one person who is dedicating his life to this work the same as you are. It's beautiful. Just clean. It's nice. It's, and shout to Alchemist because when I told Alchemist I was thinking about doing that, he was like, call me. And he sat on the phone with me for an hour. Just try do that. Don't do this.
Yeah. Look, Quiet as Kept, Al's been running it up with ALC, whether it's on the vinyl front, Al's killing it, man. Obviously, I don't know if you heard, the new 2 Chainz Larry June album he put out is incredible. I think it might have came out the same day your album dropped. Okay. No, a week before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I came out the same day as Westside Gun.
Yeah. Shout out to Al, though. Al is, man, just the best, man.
And he has an album coming with Yasin Bey. I've not heard it. I've never heard anything. Yeah, I've heard it the whole.
Is it crazy?
Yeah, man. Yasin was sending me the songs as they were making them.
Oh man.
And so
they did the Black Star album. I know a lot of people didn't get to hear it because it wasn't on DSPs, but the last Black Star album was solid, man. But I love, man. If I could get Yasin Bey with the Alchemist for a whole album, I will pay any amount of money for that.
When you're about to, and yeah. And Yasin is really against DSPs. He's like, that is slavery.
I get it though. Yes. I get it. And I think, I want to give a shout out to La Russell. La Russell's doing a good job of kind of rethinking, like, I guess, the business model approach to like music. It's like, hey, like, you can buy it or wait a while and then it'll end up on DSPs,
Yeah, Rock Marcy did that.
Yeah, Rock
Marcy is another person that does not, for as much as we love him, he
doesn't get the credit.
He's the GOAT in a certain world.
For sure.
He's not struggling. He's doing very well. But man, Rock Marcy is another one of those guys that like, man, let's tell the truth. Let's tell the truth about Rock. I love Griselda. But it's like when Griselda gets your shine, you have to talk about Rock Marcy. Don't try to hide that.
Yeah.
Don't hide that. That's what colonialism is. That's what slavery is about. That's what the culture is, where you love the people you come from and learn from. Their grind helps you. Your shine helps them.
I know I've talked to Conway a lot about. I know Conway's giving it up to
Maybe they have, and forgive me if I'm not trying to, but
no, but Rock Marcy's kind of the goat of that world especially in terms of just kind of just cultivating like fans and turning that into monetization, merch, etc. Like obviously Griselda has built their own world.
And then you see that like, man, Ka died. And Ka was another one of those voices that's like, anybody getting shine in that world, especially if you came after the 10 years of work that Rock Marcy and Ka did. Like, man, Ka worked a regular job.
Right.
So that he could make that type of music. It's like, dude, that like you can't take that away from each other. Like, okay, Elvis, you're great. You shake your butt. You're white and you can still shake your butt. Great.
Right.
Great. Nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make you a bad guy. But Big Mama Thornton had to be black in America in the 1920s.
Right.
And that's why, and like she sang like that. So just when somebody is saying, hey, you ain't nothing but a hound dog is dope, be like, yeah, shout to Big Mama Thornton. Like, that's it.
Right.
What's wrong with that? What the hell is wrong with that? And then the whole time that Rock Marcy is like, man, people are writing him off and counting him out. And I mean, he says it all the time, and he's got the right to talk like that. Because like, yeah, when people were putting shakers and cowbells in their beats, trying to be the Neptunes, he's like, yo, I'm looping this and I'm rapping over it.
Yeah, no,
and it's
no drums.
15 BPM slower than what everybody's doing.
Sure, yeah.
And they're like, yo, but you could have a record deal. Not if I got to make music like, I don't want to make that.
Yeah.
I don't want to make the Neptunes. Nothing wrong, but I want to do this.
Right.
And then Ka is doing that, and he's got to work a job. It's so that he can be that free. Ka's like, look, you're not going to tell me I'm not doing this for my fans.
Right.
I'm doing this because it's the music in my heart. If Ka has to work a job and do all of that, then when we benefit from that, we just got to say, we got to make that a part of it. Every time I'm rhyming, it's Ka. I love Action Bronson. It's like when he got angry when people kept telling him Ghostface.
Yeah, I remember. I think he probably regrets.
Again, beautiful guy.
Because he made a statement.
Talented
Was it on
dude.
ESPN or it was on somewhere random? But I feel like he probably.
He got tired of hearing it, but it's like, okay, your voices are the same register. He's not faking his voice. When you hear him talk, he's amazing.
That's how he sounds, yeah.
I'm eating snail pigeons with so-and-so. Yeah. Like, I'm saying, like, he's amazing. And he's a nice person, hardworking person,
great guy.
Talented person. He's not a punk. He's a beautiful dude.
Sure.
Nothing again. But it's like, okay, yes, you have the same register. Ghostface came up for all these years showing you how to use a voice that sounds like that. So, and if you're going to sound that much like him, then yeah, you're going to hear his name a lot. And you can't be mad about that. Right. Like that, you gotta discipline the ego to when, you know what I'm saying? When I came out, people told me I sound like Pharoah Monch. And then one day I'm sitting there rapping on the Wake Up Show, and I'm going in and I open my eyes and there's Pharoah Monch. And I said, oh man. I said on the mic, people have been telling me I sound like you. I love you. I said, do I sound like you? He said, man, somebody showed me your picture and said this guy sounds like you, and I was like, all right, I don't know about all that, but then he's like, then I heard you, and we're friends now, and to this day, if anybody ever asks me, I'm not more famous than him,
right,
either, but it's like, man, any white person that doesn't know Pharoah Monch, it's like you don't get to say, man, you're so soulful and the sing song, you da 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 da. Well, that's because of Pharoah Monch and Chuck D and Yasin,
right,
and Kweli. And Common, and you know what I mean? If there's ever anybody that celebrates me, and I know that you're also celebrating my lineage, I'm proud to be from a lineage. I hope I'm worthy of that lineage. I hope I'm worthy. You know what I mean? Those people seem to approve of me.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And if they didn't, I would be not just seeking approval for the approval's sake, but it's like, if these are people's real life. Like, if you're really an artist, you know the blood, sweat, and tears you pour into figuring out how to make it sound like this. Mm-hmm. And so if somebody else has done that work, it's like, man, I will never be out here gallivanting, taking shine from stuff I learned from you.
Right.
And if you are an artist, you know what you added. So Eminem is like, yeah, play Tretch from Naughty by Nature, not the hits. Play Wickedest Man Alive by Tretch. And play anything from G-Rap. And Redman. You're going to hear what I learned from them. You're also going to hear what Eminem brought, because he also brought something. So he's comfortable and confident. He's like, yes, Redman on my T-shirt. Go listen to Redman. Go listen to Monch.
Well, I think even on like Eminem's show where he listed, he had that line was it Until I Collapse where he mentioned like the best of, like the greatest of all time list, and then he said, and he mentioned all these rappers and then put himself at the end, and then me. I think it was like Corrupt, Redman. But he always, I think Eminem's always did a good job of paying homage. And if you know anything about Eminem, like literally his entire come up is like that of like a backpack rapper for real. Like fucking.
He comes from the culture, and there's a.
He was on Sound Bombing too, you know, like.
There's a difference with
Any Man, great song.
With people, Any Man that jump in front of a minivan for 20 grand.
He's on the. It's funny because he was on the cover of Sound Bombing too. Like there was like an illustrated picture of him.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Great. Oh my God, one of the best mixtapes ever. Shout out to fucking J Rock and Babu.
Absolutely, man.
That was. Shout out to the Beat Junkies.
Sound Bombing Lyricist Lounge. Good time.
All right, so you got the albums out. You're doing a podcast. How often are you dropping on the podcast?
Every week, except for when we don't.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Almost every week.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be
all of it's at brotherali.com.
Hitting the road in a couple of months, doing some festivals, and obviously the tour with Abilities. So that'll be dope, man. I appreciate you pulling up. The album is incredible.
Thank you.
It is, and I love the title. It felt like it.
And I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate it. Yeah.
The way that you engage artists, the way you talk to them. Of course, there's viral moments where the dude said he got $1 million scholarship or something to play. Like that was great. But
I was just like,
you. There's something. It seems so simple. It seems like why you. There's just something about people that come from the dominant culture and care about the humanity of the artist that they're talking to and the artistry. You know what I mean? And that's obvious. It's always been. I knew that.
Yeah, for me, I'm just a fan, dude. So it's like I'm a fan first, and like you said, something that you said about Atmosphere resonated with me. I could chase virality more. You could. And I could live in the trenches of like.
You're not messy.
Ick,
yes,
but I'm good.
And you don't encourage. The what you're focusing on with these mostly black artists that you talk to is their life, their humanity, their genius. You're not a person who is looking for them to be a lesser version of themselves because it'll benefit your platform. Not naming names, but there are people that
yeah. I just I'm also like. That's the other thing. There's just certain stuff I can't do because just of how I live, who I'm with,
and it's natural. And it's natural too. It's very natural.
So I appreciate the love, man. Thank you,
absolutely.
man. Album is incredible. Vinyl's available.
Yep, it starts shipping in a week or something. We just came in from Czech Republic. Brent Rollins did the design. Legendary guy did the Boys in the Hood logo. B+ from out here shot the photos.
Okay.
So like, man, the art is like a real like. Tactile experience, like that feels a certain way, and really dope.
I love it, man. So go support, and I appreciate you pulling up, man. Thank you, Brother Ali. There it is.